Hey everyone, it's Marc Sabatella from Mastering MuseScore. How you doing? Merry Christmas. Welcome to the Jazz Piano Holiday Showcase. And now's a good time to let me know if all the sound and everything is working. Seems to be from my end. Great to see everyone checking in here, and it's really fun to be doing this and seeing all the music that's been submitted. And we got a lot of it, and we're just gonna enjoy. I'm gonna, this is not like the usual music masterclass where I'm sitting here getting deep into critiques and all. This is just enjoying and celebrating the music we've been creating. So let me check in the chat and see if I've got comments. Well, now I can't work the chat, so a second. Where's the chat? Live chat. Press that button. There we go. All right, sounds good. Excellent. So, hi everyone, welcome. And yes, I had a bunch of people that had already, were members of All Access members of my site who automatically had access to the course, and then a bunch of people who became members, and a bunch of people who signed up just for the course specifically. And of all the people who possibly could have been participating, there was the people that were doing so regularly, and I was giving my feedback regularly, and I really didn't know how many other people might have been taking part, but it's been really fun to see some arrangements from people that I hadn't been seeing before or hadn't been submitting stuff as regularly, so I get to be surprised by some new music, as well as seeing the final versions of some of the pieces that we've been looking at all along and seeing what kind of wonderful final push got put into them. So some really, really great stuff here. So, all right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to just play through the music because there's quite a bit of it, and it's just going to be like a kind of a concert and a little bit of commentary, but it's mostly going to be about the music. And I think because a few people have versions that I can't download for whatever reason, and because sometimes it just works, it's less taxing on my computer resources if I access things from the website rather than from MuseScore. I'm going to play things from MuseScore. From the website, and I'm also going to, play a little bit on the piano just to talk about some stuff. I said it's not going to be like the full-on masterclass and all, but I want to have some fun with this musically, and playing the piano is one way I'm going to be able to have fun. So I'm going to go in kind of order that pieces were submitted in, so first come, first serve on this, and there's Brian Collins here is one of the people who actually took me up on the suggestion or challenge or whatever you want to call it to do a couple different songs to kind of work through the ideas in one, but then see maybe how they relate to the other. And by working through them in one, maybe you get some practice and it goes more easily with the other, or you just discover different things by getting to work on two songs. So we are going to hear first an arrangement of Silent Night. So this is Brian Collins, and we have another one or two other actual arrangements of Silent Night yet to come. So this is Brian's version here, and let's just listen. Beautiful, Brian. So, yeah, excellent. Okay, so this piece, obviously Silent Night, maybe not obviously, but it's normally in 3/4, and it's one of the pieces, a couple people took me up on this also, to take a piece that was in 3/4, but put it into 4/4 so it would, be more like a jazz swing kind of a thing. And to be honest, when I play Silent Night in a jazz setting, I usually don't do that. I kind of leave it more in its original vibe, and I think it's like really fun to hear this way and to hear how it differs from the other arrangements. So all I want to do is have some fun. Isn't that a song? I think it is. But I just want to play through this little section here just because it looks fun to play. There we go. Good. So I'm sight reading here, and I just want to have fun playing some of the fun passages of this. So that eighth note running line there is like, yeah, that's like this. I wouldn't want to have to do that throughout the whole piece, but it was really fun getting to do it once, right? So. Yeah, I like that. That was fun. So I'm just going to have some fun with some of these pieces. All right, so Brian, great job on that one. And now let's flip over to In the Bleak Midwinter. So it's funny that this piece, I didn't know, at least I didn't think I knew it before this year, and yet now I've heard it like 100 times this year. Doesn't it always work out that way? I've heard it on the radio, I've heard it, other versions of it and stuff, and I love Gustav Holst, and I love Christina Rossetti, so it's a cool piece. And actually what's interesting about it is I guess there's more than one melody for it, but at least one of them was what put Jacob Collier on the map. And if anyone knows who Jacob Collier is, well, then you know what I mean by this. But he's someone who has become a big star in kind of the jazz pop something world, music theory world, because he's taken music theory to new levels that people have never really seen before. All sorts of crazy concepts of building up chords that go, have multiple layers of octaves, things that, and all quarter tones and all sorts of stuff that he's really developed all this. And he's a kid, he's like 20 something. But his very first YouTube video that he did, he does these YouTube videos where it's like his face, him singing all the parts. So he does these a cappella arrangements where he arranges and sings all the parts and then mashes it up. So anyhow, this is actually what put him on the map, was an arrangement of this piece. So we're going to hear In the Bleak Midwinter. Maybe not as bleak. Beautiful. I love learning these new songs too that I didn't know, and just having them in my own repertoire. I'm finding myself like singing this to myself and hearing it in my head all the time now. This and Brian, you get to be the person whose version of it is like the definitive version for me now, because it's the version that I've heard the most is yours under development here. So it's been really, really cool. One thing I should point out, like the fun part, I mean, this whole piece is really fun, but I'm just going to like comment on individual little fun things. And I love the way the rhythm stops in this one measure here. So if there had been bass and drums there, that nothing on beat one, that's like this really cool little jazz thing. So we've got, I probably shouldn't be trying to sight read all this stuff, but it's fun, right? One. So that one, bam, ba-dum, that's just really fun. And the drum, I just imagine the drums, ding, 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 bah, and maybe he hit his bass drum right on one, so the rest of the band could come in with that and a one. That stuff is that's like this element of jazz that it wasn't one of the ones that I talked about, but I love getting to see it and hear it in this context here. That reminds me, I'm actually going to take a little detour here and go back to those of you who did take the course, whether you did the course or not, you probably saw my original version of things where I said, this is what we're going to learn. Now, to be honest, I was developing the course as we went along, and it was great. So I got to kind of tailor things as we went along to what people were learning and how fast I thought things could go. I had an overall plan, but I didn't have all the lessons pre-recorded. So I put forth this version of Oh Christmas Tree to sort of demonstrate. I'm just going to play through this one so you can hear this and remind yourself of all the things that we've learned along the way, and then think about them as we hear everyone's pieces here. So the idea with this piece was I wanted to show you how you were going to learn the piece a little bit at a time, how you're going to start it with a melody, and then you're going to do some swing, and then you're going to do a real simple harmonization, then some reharmonizations, and then some voicings, and some more complicated voicings, and some black chords, and drop two voicings, and all sorts of different things that we're going to be learning along the way. So yeah, this is just going to be a nice little tour through the course of what you all learned and what you're going to be seeing and hearing in all the arrangements we listened to today. And there you go. So yeah, we pretty much did all those things. I didn't end up doing a whole lesson on those melodic fills just because it didn't seem like it fit. But that was about the only thing in here that we didn't really pretty specifically talk about. And this little passage right here. Boom. That was the thing with the drum fill going into the downbeat, where the whole band rests on one except maybe the bass drum, and then coming in on the end of one. So yeah, I guess I had worked that into that there. All right, so let's move on and keep listening to some music here. So that was Brian's music here. And so I think the next piece that got finished up and submitted, well, I don't want to guess. I'm going to just see it. I'm gonna go this way. So Gijs picked Mary's Boy Child, which is a piece that I grew up playing in our church. And it's kind of got this kind of calypso vibe to it that has a really kind of specific feel originally, and it was really interesting to see all the things that Gijs was coming, because he's coming definitely from a church background, but a more traditional hymn-based background, and has posted tons of really great music here, and it was really fun to see all the new things that you got to try, Gijs, in putting your arrangement together here. And to be honest, I have not heard, so I've made a point not to listen to people's final versions, because I want to be surprised, but I looked at them, and what's been really fun for me is seeing, as you work through the course and you do your individual lessons, how you've got a version of the song that exemplifies this lesson, a version that exemplifies this lesson, but at the end it becomes this mix and match thing, right? And then doing all this rhythmic things to it. And so the final versions are where it kind of really takes shape. And for some people, that looks like a lot of work went into those final versions. And I think that seems like that was the case with Gijs's here and maybe one or two others, where I'm looking at things that I don't remember having seen specifically in this way before. So I'm really looking forward to hearing this. Lovely. So this is, it's been interesting for me to be, talking through some of the things that were going on in this, because Gijs had expressed that, he's coming from this traditional background and isn't so sure about some of the more dissonant sounds, and yet you've totally embraced dissonance for this, right? You've got some crunchy chords going on in here, and they're really cool sounds. And there's a couple of them that are like, I really love this sound, and I guess I didn't get to talk about this sound, so I'm going to talk about it briefly right now. Okay, so there's a couple things going on. So first of all, this right here is like this cluster. So in the left hand is just a D minor 7. In the right hand, I've got E, F, and G, right? So this little clustery kind of thing. Clusters are cool things. I mean, I didn't talk a ton about making clusters, but they're neat sounds. But then this voicing that's about to happen here, this voicing right here, especially when we get to the C, this voicing here is a really, it's a popular kind of sound. It's called a sus flat 9 because, well, that's what it is, right? It's G7, but with the sus, meaning the fourth is not what it means, but it might as well. And then flat 9, the A flat. And often in that way, with the root and the flat 9 next to each other. And then often it might be down here to play it in one hand. But this is a really cool sound. And Sora, you might recognize this sound as one that comes from the Phrygian scale. So some people refer to this as a Phrygian voicing. So it's basically, this is a Phrygian scale here, except the melody is a B natural instead of a B flat. But we borrow that sound a lot to use for 5 chords. And so a couple times in this piece, Gijs has hit on that kind of Phrygian sound. It's basically the same thing at the end. But I think it wasn't even only there. I think there was some other place where the same sound kind of happened. But anyhow, really, I think it's right here. Let me play into it. Yeah, so right there. Right here. G, F, A flat, C, and D. And then on top of it. So yeah, that's a really cool sound, and there's so many cool sounds to make in jazz and things to learn about, and we only have so many hours in a day, so many weeks in a month and so forth to cover these things, and so it's really nice to just see these additional little goodies, these little stocking stuffers, if you will, kind of falling out of the woodwork. And yeah, I'm going to do some other courses like this because it was a lot of fun, and I'll find ways of making it. I mean, this was a ton of information, but it got spread so quickly that maybe not a lot of time to really learn each individual technique. So I'll do other versions of it where I get maybe deeper into individual techniques and focus a little more. So all right, I'm going to move on, and the next piece that we have here, I guess I will just control clicks here. So the next one is Jim's piece. And so Jim started working on, what was it, Santa Claus is Coming to Town? I forget. Something like that. And at some point decided to take one of his old originals where it was actually a woman he knew had written a poem, asked him to set it to music, and he did that years ago, but it was very, very simple at the time. And he then decided to take that really simple version of the song he had written and set it through all the little transformations here, and then in combos and stuff, that's like a comfortable thing for him to do, even though it wasn't something that we talked about. By the way, as far as harmony goes, I will say that my harmony course, so I don't want to be the commercial guy, but no, you're asking about this stuff, and that this is the harmony course is basically that 1 week we spent working on reharmonization, or maybe a week and a half or so. That is an entire course on harmony that was being condensed into there. So I definitely recommend that you check that out. So we're going to hear this piece, and apparently there's lyrics in it about grits because people were talking about that. I love grits, and I had actually talked about having grits this morning, but there was too much else going on, so we're going to have grits on Christmas morning instead. So we are having grits on Christmas morning, which I assume is perhaps part of what this song is actually about. So let's hear Jim Ivy's Love, Love, Love at Christmas. All right, that is just such a cool, fun song. Yeah, so one of the most noteworthy things about this is the fact that he did arrange it for a trio. And that is that's definitely a way that jazz pianists love working with bass and drums, because it frees us up to not have to do some of the things we otherwise would do, and it gives us people to interact with and do additional things we wouldn't have otherwise done. But one of the things that's really cool here is this kind of accompaniment pattern of just this steady right, and I can't reach all that in my left hand, but if I would if I could, but this stuff here is a style of accompaniment where you're just basically repeating a chord that's often associated with Errol Garner, the guy who wrote Misty. That's his biggest claim to fame for most people. But yeah, he was a pianist, a pretty much self-taught pianist, who hit on this accompaniment style for himself of just repeating these quarter notes, usually like kind of behind the beat, where you're each of those notes is a little bit not right on the beat, but a little after. And that was part of his style, and it's this really nice, relaxed style, and he uses that style even at faster tempos. And so it really goes nicely here. So that's definitely worth pointing out. And then I think you said, Jim, that you used Improviser. It's an open source program that I'm moderately familiar with. No, not even moderately, minimally familiar with. I've met the guy who wrote it. And played around with it once or twice. But I assume that it for you some of the stuff as far as the drum parts, or perhaps the piano solo here might have been, because Improviser will generate piano solos for you, or not just piano solos, but improvised solos. That's kind of what its claim to fame is. It can create accompaniment based on chord symbols, but improvisation based on those chord symbols. So anyhow, really, really nice job, really fun song. And so I have to say I was forgetting to look at the lyrics to understand where I was looking at the grits, the lyrics sometimes, but where are the grits? There must be grits in the song somewhere, because people were talking about them. But in any case, there's grits involved, apparently. Grits are good. I don't care what people say. Maybe it's just part of the story over here. Anyhow, really, really, really nice. And jazz without a bass is like breakfast without grits. There's the grits. Okay, I knew there were grits somewhere. Okay, one other thing I'll point out about this is these little grace notes here. This is grace notes are a thing in any kind of music, but especially in jazz and especially on piano, because on other instruments they can bend pitches, right? They can play a pitch a little bit flat, a little bit, or scoop into it, and you can do things like that, but you can't on piano. The closest we get is that. So you'll see jazz piano stuff with those little grace note figures written pretty often, and also this little figure that I guess Improviser probably put in. Well, maybe it didn't. I don't remember. But it's a figure in which you have the grace note into the bottom note of a little chord like that. Or the of a third like that, or the middle note of a triad. These are all little jazz piano cliche sorts of things that we do to have fun. Okay. All right. So let's hear some more music. So that was really, really nice there, Jim. All right. So next is "Bring a Torch," Jeanette Isabella. And this is a piece that I didn't know until like last year or the year before, when my wife introduced it to me. And so it's Richard who did this arrangement, and yeah, this is a cool tune, and it's got some interesting features to it. It's kind of an older song, and the phrase structure is a little odd. It's got like 5-bar phrases and things, and I found that kind of an interesting challenge when I was working on arranging it last year. So this can be Richard's version of "Bring a Torch," Jeanette Isabella. Nice. Yeah, no, that's so pretty. It's a pretty song, and you found all sorts of really pretty voicings and pretty things going for it. And, I was talking about the whole jazz waltz feel, and Richard was saying, well, he wasn't that comfortable doing it, but I think it has a great feel as it is. So, one thing is just by using jazz types of voicings, this is the sort of thing where if I were to play this, I would just take this and just play it a little freely and call it done. I mentioned that in the rhythm lesson that I don't typically write out complicated rhythms for me to play and say, I'm going to write out all this complicated syncopation. As a jazz pianist, I write a sketch and then I improvise my own stuff from it. So I might easily be taking this. I could play it literally. Ah. So just to take that beginning. So all I did is not play this together, right? I don't know, I'm just not playing the notes exactly together because I don't have to, right? And that's all that's needed to make it feel like it's in the style. It doesn't have to be about writing in really, really, really specific syncopations that are exactly the way that you want them, because one of the natures of jazz is we're improvising this stuff. So to me, this really works beautifully, and it's nice voicings, and it gives me the opportunity to do what I want rhythmically if I want to play this. So I just did a little out-in thing, right? Because I could, and I just I do things like that, even if it's written to play all together. I might do an out or in, or especially if he wanted me to go, if he wanted me to, play a tenth that I can't play, I would totally use that as an excuse to do outer voices than inner voices. And so, yeah, I do that kind of thing all the time, and it's just really beautiful. By the way, grits. Harmony is a type of grits too, right? It's a different kind. I like them both. But obviously, it does, them's fighting words in some places, whether it needs to be harmony or shouldn't be harmony and all. But grits are worth discussing to me. All right, so we're going to keep listening to more music here. And so this piece, Miriam, so another new song to me, and it was interesting to me in that when she first was posting it, it was melody alone or melody and really simple harmonizations, that I thought it was a different song because the title that she put was Angels Jazz, and the melody is basically so that much. And I know, angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plain. That's the melody I know that starts that way, and it's about angels, right? But this is a totally different song that I guess is well known in the United Kingdom, in certain regions of the world. And so a lot of that was the case within the bleak midwinter, also really popular in the UK. So in any case, I was wondering why the melody wasn't exactly the way I thought it should be, and it turned out because it's a different song. It's Angels from the Realms of Glory. Is that right? Angels from the Realms of Glory. Something like that is the title of it. So yeah, this I think you did just a really, really nice job of this all the way through, all the different things that I heard you trying. So I'm looking forward to hearing now the completed version. All right, great job, Miriam. So this piece, one of the things that I loved is right from the beginning, I feel like you had a really good feel for the harmonization possibilities. When earlier people were talking about the things that we learned about these idioms and ways, and Miriam was all over that and just found some just really fantastic ways of using some pretty unexpected combinations of chords that are totally by the book, but not, things that maybe weren't the expected place to do that particular thing. And of course, I don't remember where anything in particular was at the moment, but there were just all sorts of really cool sounds that I was enjoying along the way from a harmonic perspective here. And this pattern here, I talked about this faux stride thing of where you're root and then 5 and 10 over here, or maybe 5 and 7 sometimes. But just the other thing that I talked about, just alternating the root and just the tenor voice, that gives you something too, right? So what she's got going here, right? I can do that. That's not a. It looks like a lot of jumping around, but it's not. It's just rocking the hand. So it's not difficult to play this. And it's a way of getting motion that gives you more than one note, right? It gives you not just a walking bass line where you're only providing a bass roll. Because the walking bass line is really only about the roots. The rest of it's rhythm. But if you do this, the other note you're playing on beat 2, it's an actual chord tone. So it's actually giving you something for your voicing. So it's some really cool techniques that I'm really happy to see people finding ways of using these things. So yeah, really love so much of what's going on there. I wish I could find that one spot that yeah, it's right here. This spot here. So a couple things, right? This, first of all, it's the it's the I'm going to make one observation about this in a second. Right, so that's our minor 4 chord, B flat minor. So you know how much I like that idiom. So it's going from 4 to minor 4 to flat 7, but then instead of coming back to 1, it's going with a deceptive resolution to 6. And this is really cool. It's like one cool little chord thing followed by another one that really works beautifully together. And so yeah, it's just really cool. One of the things that I wanted to observe about this is, the thing is, for me trying to play this, I'm having to read every note, and it's not that I don't read music, of course I do, but when I'm playing jazz, I'm usually reading a lead sheet, just chord symbols, and I'm having to read each note one at a time, make sure I got everything on its proper beat and everything like this, and it feels like a lot of work. Whereas if I were to improvise something like that, it's not a lot of work. Whatever, I didn't have the melody right, but that wasn't work. That was easy. And the example I always like to give people is this. You ready? Watch this. You know how easy it was for me to do that? Anyone could do that, right? I could get, my cat can do that, right? But my cat does that. But to read complicated stuff like that, you have to work out every single note and when it comes in it, and that's way harder. So people think of jazz improvisation as being harder than writing and reading music, but in some ways it's not. It's a very easy and natural thing to do, which is why Errol Garner could be a great improviser despite basically not reading music, not really being trained in any normal music theory sense or anything like that. Because a lot of this stuff actually is pretty easy to just do if you're not having to get a lot of specific, I've got to play that exact note right there. No, anything that says F major 7, I'm happy to do. I can play F major 7 all day long without thinking about it, and I don't even know what I'm doing rhythmically there. I'm just wiggling my fingers around an F major 7 chord voicing. So, it's actually quite easy to do that stuff on the fly, way easier than you would imagine it to be, is the comment that I make there. So, of course, it takes training to get to that point, but, once you're there, it can be surprisingly easy. That is what I would say. All right, so let's move on. Let's hear more music. So, Colleen, White World of Winter, another song I just did not know until this year. And then I eventually, heard it a couple more times. I mean, I checked out the Bing Crosby version that you were suggesting, and I eventually, ran into it somewhere or other. I think on a TV special or something, someone sang it. So we are going to hear this final version of White World of Winter. And so Colleen is like one of the few people in this class that I've met outside the context of the class, right? I mean, I've known you for more than 10 years, right? And she's a really good jazz pianist. And so a lot of the stuff in here is, just really feels very natural and sounds great, and is the kind of thing where I would love to hear you get to play this sometime and then, do whatever you would want to do on top of what you've notated, just like I might do. But in any case, this is The White World of Winter, arranged by Colleen. Yeah, love it. So I love the fact that, again, I didn't check out the final versions of these things. And so of all the different things that you tried, it's great to see all the different things worked in, including things that I hadn't seen before, like, this part of the song here, the da-da-da-da-da-dum, that there's nothing that happens in there, and it's like an invitation. When I say nothing that happens, I mean just a little squeezing, rest, 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 could be mighty pleasing, rest, 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 right? So during those rests in there, it's like an invitation for there to be some sort of interesting fill kind of thing going. And so I like that little bass line going up to the splash, right? So that was a really nice little solution to what should happen in there. But actually my very favorite part, and this is, I don't know if this is one that, Colleen, you'll be able to say that, oh yeah, I got this from Drew or got it from Tamir, but right here, this little passage here. So you've got then this thing here is arpeggiating the same chord but offset, right? So this is an A flat chord, the 5, 1, 3 in the melody, while the left hand is going 1, 3, 5. So that they're kind of following each other up. You can, right? That kind of pattern is a very Bill Evans thing, and he really developed this whole art form around how to create that and harmonize within it, just like with the drop 2 voicings, how we talked about like these passing diminished chords. Bill Evans had his own technique for those sorts of things, and he loved to do arpeggios like that. Things, anytime there was like that kind of arpeggio in the melody, he loved to accompany it with the same arpeggio but a beat behind in the left hand. So anyhow, that's a really lovely technique, and I love how that got in there. So this is just so fun, and I love learning new songs from this and having new pieces to have in my own Christmas repertoire. So yeah, just really, really nice. All right, moving on. Silver Bells. So Dean had started on the Silver Bells arrangement, and really quickly, Dean has worked through most of my courses, I think, and has always really applied himself really hard and worked through all the examples and stuff, and he came up with a really just I'm going to do everything in here, and he's got it's big. It's got a lot of stuff going on, and it sounds great. And again, I haven't heard the very final version, but I've heard lots of the other versions along the way, and he's always got lots of chords and lots of interesting motions and things. So let's hear the final version with the question mark, and I did air quotes, but because in a jazz setting, when is it ever final? We can always improvise if nothing else. So this is going to be Silver Bells, which is another song that's originally in 3. Yeah, it's originally in 3, and Dean moved it into 4 for the purpose of this, which I think works really well, and gave him some places it feels extremely natural, some places it feels like, this gave him an opportunity to work in some interesting rhythmic things that I might not have thought of otherwise. So here we go. Yeah, Dean. Yeah, you just found so many fun things to be doing with this and ways of combining all the different things that we dealt with. There's just so much stuff. But the thing that's kind of uniquely your own are the rocking octaves in there, which is really, when I say rocking octaves, it is definitely a rock, R&B, 1950s era piano playing technique. And it comes from boogie woogie, right? These kinds of patterns that were common patterns by boogie woogie, as that's basically the style of having that kind of eighth note line, not necessarily octaves, but so you've got this boogie woogie aspect to it, which is uniquely yours in that, it's not something that I was talking about, here's how to make that sound. You found it and did it, and it's really, just really nicely done. And I feel like this would take some work for me to work up, for some of the same reasons that physically it might not be that hard, but because some of the patterns aren't as natural for me. I'm not a boogie woogie pianist normally. I have to think about exactly what's going on and work out the coordination of it. It would take some work for me to be able to play this, but this would be a nice little showcase piece for someone who wanted to really work up a little, Christmas recital piece. This takes some effort to put this one together. Some of the pieces are easier than others to play, I think, is my sense, and some of them might, for hand stretch reasons, be difficult. Some of them are just a lot of notes to work through, and you can't worry too much about it. Write the music you want to write, and assume that the people who want to play it will play it. That's the way I feel about this. So really, really nice job, Dean, and glad that you worked through so many of those things. All right, so God rest ye merry gentlemen. So now this is another one, Graham. when I saw your final version, I'm like, wow, you really took this to the next level with the last bit of stuff you did. So I'm really looking forward to some of the things that I'm seeing here, hearing what's going on with some of the rhythmic things going on and so forth. So this is actually listened to a little bit of it because I was curious about something. But here's "God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen," arranged by Graham Archer. Yeah, I love all the things that you've done here, and especially a lot of the things that you've done just in the last week or so that I hadn't seen before. Some of the rhythmic things and so forth, and the little extra fills and so forth. This is really cool. And the pedal point introduction I think was a perfect. So pedal point is all these low C's. Are they? No, that's just a pedal sign. I thought it was an octave sign. The boom, 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 and then doing these different chords on top, right? Oops, I'm probably playing that wrong, but I might as. Is that a? Yeah, I got that one. So yeah, playing these different chords on top of that C pedal, that's the kind of thing you can do with pedal point, and I think that was just super effective, and that I like that a lot, and I like all these little chromatic motions and things, like this little ending figure that you have. Just first of all, the descending line there. Oh, that's so like this little chromatic motion from here to here and there to there, all those little descending chromatic things that's then balanced by this ascending thing there. It's like I love hearing these little chromatic lines, and we've talked about them in terms of these like inner voice motions and things. And the thing is, it gets a little old to only hear the expected little chromatic motion. So hearing unexpected ones, or unexpected to me anyhow, is just really fun, especially when they sound good and are really effective. So So the Nutcracker, I'm not as familiar with the Nutcracker as I should be. I mean, obviously I've heard the hits on the radio and so forth, but it's not like I really know that music as well as I should, and I feel bad about that. But yes, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to move on, and because I want to keep making sure I get to people's music here, because gosh, there's so much lovely music being submitted here. So Let It Snow. And so some of these, as I said, I hadn't had the chance to really work with people as they were working on them as much. And I know, Stephen, I corresponded with you a little bit offline, and I totally trust that you did a great job, because I know you're quite accomplished at what you do. So I'm looking forward to hearing your Let It Snow from Stephen. right, nice job, Stephen. And so I'm guessing unannounced, or maybe you announced it somewhere. I'm assuming you deliberately worked in little bits of at least silver bells, and I feel like there's more, right? But there's little hints of no, that's not there. There was little hints of silver bells in there, though. Here we go. Anyhow, this idea of, and I'm assuming that was on purpose, but in any case, that's certainly a thing we do a lot in jazz. It's called quoting, where you're playing one song and something happens in that song that reminds you of another song, and so you kind of work a little bit of that other song into the one. Usually it happens during an improvised solo, but working in little bits of it in the behind other bits of melody is also a thing also. And that idea of quotes, and I almost mentioned that in the context of the endings lesson, because it's actually is a real common ending. Just quoting Jingle Bells after you've played your song, and you go. And not just on Christmas songs, but especially on Christmas songs, everyone seems to like to quote Jingle Bells as a little final flourish on things. I just didn't put it out there because we had enough endings as it was. But anyhow, so all sorts of cool stuff going on. By the way, I think I realized partway through, but I wasn't going to mess with it, that the chord symbols were set to still play. So we were hearing MuseScore play the chord symbols. It is possible to turn those off. By going into MuseScore in the inspector to open up the inspector over here, and I don't have chord symbols in this version, but if you pick a chord symbol and then you turn off the play in the inspector, and I already have it turned off, and then hit the little set as style button. I got to make my inspector bigger, but in any case, that's something that y'all might want to know if you didn't already have that you can turn off the playback and then set as style so it stays turned off for that piece. And that way we don't hear like a second pianist in there. All right, so we're going to move on, and I'm going to hear the Huron Carol, which is, so this one I feel like, even though I wouldn't have known it by name, there's something kind of familiar about it that I feel like there are things about it that I recognize. So I didn't really, I gave some feedback, and I think you've worked out some interesting things, because based on your comments, I did want to hear what's going on, and I think it's some cool stuff. It's always possible to jazzify any song. It's a question of whether you lose too much of the original and don't like it, and then you have to figure out what you're doing with it. But the stuff I heard you doing in here, I thought really sounds nice, and I will enjoy hearing the whole thing now. So let's hear where this thing is at. All right, nice. And yeah, I don't know if you meant the B flat at the end. Probably you wanted a B natural to go with the F sharps there. But yeah, no. See, to me, this is really cool because I don't know the original, but I'm guessing it doesn't sound like this exactly. And so even if it doesn't sound exactly like I might have taken a jazz thing, what I might have done with it, I think you've created a really interesting, unique sound that's using these sounds that we're dealing with and putting your own personal version of it. So to me, it's extremely effective. And you can keep playing around with individual things, but I think you're really onto some nice sounds there, whether or not it sounds exactly like what a jazz pianist would do or not. I think you're adapting those sounds and bringing them into whatever you're doing, and I say keep going with it. I mean, to keep working on these kinds of techniques, because I think there's some great stuff in here. Really throughout, and some of it, like, I really wonder about that F minor chord. I can't believe that the original sounded like this. That F minor comes as a complete shock to my system in the key of D minor, and I loved it. It doesn't necessarily relate to anything in particular that I might have talked about. There's probably a simpler harmonization that stays closer to the key of D minor, and yet I loved that surprise of that F minor chord in there. So, I mean, there's all sorts of things like that feel like it's part of your own kind of personal language going on. And it's just really, it's, as nice as it is to hear happy versions of Christmas songs, it's also really nice to hear something that's just interesting and creative and incorporates some of these kinds of sounds, but takes it to its own place. So, Damien, I heartily approve of what you're doing here. Okay, so next up we have Oh Christmas Tree, and so this piece here is really interesting because that was my starting point for in showing you, here are some of the things we're going to be learning, and it's also one of the centerpieces of Vince Guaraldi's Charlie Brown Christmas music. So it's it is a piece that is sort of well known in jazz piano circles with particular things that you do, and we know that those things work because Vince did them, I've done them, and all jazz pianists who do Christmas songs, this is one of the ones that we know what we can do with, and we do these things. And so Larry is in territory in which people have been working on these, playing these songs before, playing in this style, and yet he's finding chords that are different from the ones that Vince Guaraldi played or that I played, and different things going on in his voicings. And this is what's so great about this. Just because we're learning a particular set of styles doesn't mean everyone's going to come up with the same answer. So Larry is taking the exact same elements that I dealt with in the version I played earlier, and using them exactly by the book and doing exactly the right things with them, and yet coming up with different things from them. So here is Larry's version of Oh Christmas Tree. I mean, this is so nice, Larry. I mean, you've really just done an astoundingly good job of just taking everything that I talked about, what to do, and applying them in here, and playing something that sounds exactly like how a jazz pianist would play this. Every single jazz pianist looking at this will go, yeah, which professional jazz pianist put this together, because it sounds exactly like the kind of thing that we would do. And so it's a great kind of poster child for doing the things. This little. I'm always a sucker for the dropped 2 voicing passages, and you found really great places to use those. And yeah, I just love the things going on in here. And yeah, and of course all the places where when we've talked about all the moving voice parts there, and you found all the right places to be doing that, and it just sounds great. Yeah, this is the stuff right here. This is what it's all about. All right, we're going to keep going here. So now we're up to the ones. Oh, so Rudolph. So the problem with Rudolph was it was so. Let's see if we now have the most recent version of it, because there were 2 versions posted, and one of them I couldn't access, but I think it was the more recent version, and so I'm not sure which is which and which has the right playback. Okay, good. Oh, good. It's accessible now. So, because apparently the other one had some issue and it wasn't the most recent version anyhow. So here we are, and we will now get to hear Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which is one where Clark, I think you started a little late on in the course, and you just caught up marvelously, and you also have some really great things going on in the versions that I've seen of what you've been doing. So let's check out Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Yeah, bravo. So yeah, Clark, I think you just did a great job of catching up and applying all the different things that got talked about, and you can see examples of pretty much everything going on. And you also hit on this this is another fun. I talked about this being those rocking eighth notes as being an aspect of the boogie woogie style, but so is this actually. This these kinds of figures where you're really it's a quarter note based figure, kind of like that Errol Garner thing, but it's a bass focused one as opposed to a middle register focused one, and it's based on a pattern, right? So that pattern, that's a nice sort of a gentle version of a boogie woogie pattern going on in there, and it's just really nice. And I also love this little passage right here, both harmonically and rhythmically and melodically. So you all know I like it because it's got that 4 to minor 4 to 1, and I'm always going to be a sucker for that. But just the way it's approached also, and he's like played with the melody of, it would have, the F would fit the E flat minor, but he actually and made it like a little personalized version of the melody, and it fit that chord progression really well and felt really natural, and rhythmically the way then it went from this kind of walking line to this boom chick right, to the more stride piano kind of feel. It just really was a welcome little surprise there that just totally fit everything, and love it, love it, love it. Okay, so glad that you got that one working. And so next up we have a version of Jingle Bells that is not my version of Jingle Bells, but is the version of Jingle Bells. For some reason, oh yes, I am Halbertsma. That's right. And of course, I'm just guessing on the pronunciation of your name. But I know that you have a really good feel for jazz, and I'm really looking forward to hearing this because, again, I haven't really been hearing your versions as they've been going along as much. But I also know that you've got a good feel for this music, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got going on with Jingle Bells here. Wow. Wow. So, yeah, there is so much going on with this. This would be like a whole master class in itself, talking about all the things you've done with this, Sam. So, I mean, most obviously, right, he's put this into a totally different rhythmic realm. I mean, 12/8 in some sense is 4/4, right? It's just 4/4 with a triplet feel. So that's what I was expecting at first. But that's not really what's going on. It's because this is 12/8, right? It could have been right? It could have been that, and it wasn't, but it's not that, right? It's this much more complex, syncopated thing going on, this kind of Latin kind of thing going on, but harmonically, this thing is changing key like every 4 measures in the most subtle, interesting ways. And so, Sam, are you here? I would, yeah, we'll talk about this at some point, because I'd love to talk more about what he's doing here. But what it reminds me of is Eliane Elias did a version of Girl from Ipanema that this reminds me of, in that she's, you know that song? And then it just repeats that same A section, but she does this in a version where she like modulates first like every 8 bars, then every 4. I haven't never even worked out what she does, but it has the same sense to it that this has of taking a really familiar melody and somehow changing the harmonies underneath it in a way that takes it through new keys in like really surprising ways. And so someday I'm going to figure out what the heck she did on that song, but this reminds me of it. And so I don't know if it's literally doing similar things, but it's the melody in C. No. Right, that's not even right. would be what it would be in the key of E flat, but he's like moved it to the key of C, and then yeah, it's just so wild and awesome the way he has moved through these things. So yeah, Sam, absolutely brilliant. Yes, I know people are, we've been doing this a bit, and I knew it was going to take a little more than an hour, but I want to, we'll wrap up here, unless there was another one showed up since we started here. But Sora has a piece that is another, like, absolutely unlike anything else, because it's her original piece, and it's an original piece that's really unique. It's not like in the same style as anything else, and yeah, we worked on this hard, gave her a lot of feedback, and you've really done a fantastic job of applying the things that we've talked about. And so Sora's piece here is, yeah, like absolutely nothing else, and really looking forward to hearing this completed version, or as completed as it is at the moment, because you can always keep working, but let's hear what's going on with this piece. So it's a couple different sections. So the beginning section is Phrygian. We talked about that kind of voicing, and you can hear that kind of sound at the beginning section, and then it becomes more tonal, more jazzy, but also more loose harmonically, and it's fascinating. Yeah, that's I just love all the places you've taken this since it started, and it's just got a lot of great stuff in it that doesn't sound exactly like anything else, right? It doesn't seem like all the typical jazz sorts of things, and yet it very much reminds me, there's a number of composers, I've mentioned that I sometimes compose in a way that's vaguely reminiscent of this. There's a guy who lives in Boulder named Art Landy, who this very much reminds me of his music as well, and just the way some of these voicings work out, and the non-tonal nature of it, and yet not completely atonal. There's recognizable chord sounds happening, but not connected in expected ways. I just love this type of sound, and think you've done a great job of putting it together. And I absolutely applaud what you've done writing this piece and arranging it using these techniques. It's just it's an art song. You've created a new art song for the world. So great job on that. All right, everyone. So thank you again so much for being here for this, and this has been such a great pleasure for me working through this course with you all, and trying to do these things, and showing you all these different techniques and helping you all work through them. And it was a lot to absorb in a relatively short time, and you all have done such a marvelous job. So I applaud all of you getting all of this getting all of this done. So give yourselves a nice round here. And let me play out some music here. So I want to, again, thanks everyone for being a part of this. Next week I will just return to my regular schedule. And we'll just do things next week. Starting in the new year, I'll try to figure out some new things to be doing as well, some new courses, new whatevers, new ways of involving people, and really looking forward to what the new year is going to bring. Want to wish everyone a really Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and just keep making music. And I just again, so thankful for all of you. So thankful that all of you are part of this community, part of all the learning that's going on here, all the music making. It's just been so gratifying to me. I'm so glad that I created this community. I kind of hesitated about doing that for a long time, but again, thanks. It's been a big part of my life to have you as part of my life now. So again, thanks to all of you. Merry Christmas.